Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another Strange Parts Show and Tell. How's everybody doing? Happy Saturday. Hey, Sophie. Good morning / evening. Hey, Scoffert. What else we got in here? Hey, Obsidian. Hey, Scave Rat. Oh, hey, PRPX. You came in early. Hey, Harnado. Hey, Genon Pie. Welcome. Wow, we've got multiple people tuning in at 4 o'clock in the morning, both Sophie and Mahathir Mohammed. Welcome. Hey, Mr. Doug Dude. Welcome, welcome. I'm really excited about this. If you missed the last one, it was fantastic. The last one, which was the first one, it was fantastic. We had some people showing off really cool stuff and just had a great time. Had a bunch of people watching. So I have high expectations for this one as well. Welcome, welcome. Hi, 80s Gamer MX. Yeah, I'm doing well. I had a friend stop by this morning who I know from, I guess, from Hope, the Hope conference. He's sort of a hacker friend / digital nomad and spent some time in China and stuff. So I hung out with him and showed him around the shop. It's his first time seeing the shop. So that was super fun. He brought us some fresh eggs from the farm he's staying at while he's in Denver. And had some good conversations. So yeah, eager to hang out with all of you. Wow, we have people tuning in from around the globe. 9 p.m., 5 a.m. My goodness. The Last Furian asks, I can click on these, right? Yes. So when am I headed back to China? I am actively working on planning a trip right now. So I don't know exactly when it's going to be. I was originally thinking March, but it might take me a little bit longer to put some pieces in place here. I'm trying to hire some folks to come with me so that we can be a bit more efficient making videos. Waiting on some other exciting things to come through for that. But I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to back. It's open now. You have to get a business visa and jump through some hoops, but there's no more quarantines and no more special invitation letters from the government. So should be pretty straightforward. I'm excited about that. I don't know if I should announce it, but I'm very excited about LTX. Let's say that. I don't know if it's been announced, but I have been chatting with the Linus Tech Tips folks, and I really enjoyed LTX 2019, and I heard this one's going to be another good one. So maybe I'll see some of you folks there. So this is a common question. My head's doing great. I've got the occasional headache, but it's really not slowing me down at all at this point. I still know it's there, but I hesitate to say I'm 100% better, but effectively I'm pretty close to that. There's pretty much not a lot that's holding me back at this point. So that's pretty sweet. Still being careful not to hit it again, and I'm working on other health things, eating well and getting exercise and stuff like that. So, it's going to be an ongoing journey. It'll be something I always sort of have in the back of my head, as it were. I'm in really good shape at this point. What else we got here? I really enjoyed chatting with everyone at LTX. I'm sorry I met so many people. I probably don't have any way to recognize you, Warmonger. But yeah, it was a blast. I look forward to seeing folks again. It definitely was one of my favorite conferences that I went to as a creator. My other favorite conference is SuperCon, which is put on by Hackaday, which is a much smaller thing, and it's sort of more like maker focused rather than like creator focused. It's an electronics conference, and that's probably my favorite. But LTX is probably second at this point. It's really rad. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Have I been working out a lot? Yes. I have been working out almost every day now, and I'm glad it's starting to show. It's been a little bit of a battle to drop, sort of COVID and concussion weight, but I'm actively working on it, both in terms of diet and exercise. So the most important thing is that I'm feeling healthier from eating well and getting exercise. I've found that so I've been exercising in the mornings, like generally 20 to 30 minutes, and I kind of mix it up. I've got a Peloton bike, which I really like. I like even more than I thought I would. And then kettlebells and I'm doing a lot of like trying to fix old injuries. So a lot of like stretching and PT type stuff, and then getting out for hikes and stuff like that. And I found that even like 10 minutes of exercise in the morning, jumping on the stationary bike for 10 minutes, just makes me feel better the whole rest of the day. So that's been awesome. Yeah. Am I going to make more projects with Raspberry Pi or Arduino? Yes. I do have some Raspberry Pi projects in mind, and I always have Arduinos around. I've actually got an Arduino in front of me that is going to be part of show and tell, I think. And I've got a little Uno sitting here. I love these for little one-off things. If I'm going to do something that needs, some very basic, digital in and out, analog in and out, I'll either jump for an Uno, or actually more often I'm using ESPs just because they have Wi-Fi. But I've got them sprinkled throughout the shop. And then, Raspberry Pis tend to be almost too complex for a lot of things that I want to do. But I do have some Pis around, and I have some various Pi projects in mind at some point. But honestly, I've been spending a lot of time working on iPhone stuff recently. So I have 2 big iPhone projects in the works right now that are taking me a little bit longer than I expected, but I'm really excited to share them. So stay tuned on that. Yeah, ESPs are better than Unos. Yeah, Unos are nice when you need when you need something that's going to be extremely predictable. And I'm showing off the thing that I'm going to show and tell here. When you need something super predictable that is going to be super stable. I've run into some weird issues with ESP8266s. Their networking stack is a little bit weird and can cause. I found that if you UDP flood a ESP8266, it falls over. So if I was doing something where I needed this on like a test bench or something for testing another piece of hardware, like testing an iPhone or something, I might go for an Uno. But yeah. But ESPs tend to be what I'm reaching for more now, either an 8266 or an ESP32. So, yeah. Well, let's jump into a little a show and tell here. I haven't played with the Picos. I do have some. I've just actually never gotten them out. I'm in the weird place of actually accumulating more dev boards than I have time to play with right now, which I feel a little bit guilty about. Yeah, so much of my time is spent on like projects for videos that I wish I had more time to play with stuff, because it's part of what, where I learn things and where I come up with ideas for new videos and things like that. And so, even though I have the enviable position of doing what I do full time, this is not a night and weekend sort of gig. The reality is I'm working 6-7 days a week, and a lot of my time is taken up doing other things to run a business that, Strange Parts is a business at the end of the day. It employs people, and we have to pay rent, and it pays for food that goes in my mouth. So there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, whether it's meeting and talking with sponsors, whether it's, working on editing videos, or just, the time that goes into not just doing ambitious projects, right? Like doing ambitious iPhone projects, which I'm working on one that's really ambitious right now. That's kicking my butt. I'm soldering 01005s and on a very expensive iPhone. And yesterday I lost 2. They just like skittered off into oblivion, and hopefully they're not super critical. The phone still boots, so as far as I know, they're still fine. But yeah, the reality is there's just, well, what I was going to say is like, not only do I work on really ambitious projects, but the reality is when you film something, it takes 5 times as long as it would take you to do it off camera if you're filming it yourself anyway. And so yeah, I mean, it's a matter of hiring folks that can help me do that. So that's one of my big focuses right now. So I've been spending a bunch of time sort of getting hiring going, and we got someone who's helping me with that process, but it's still very involved. Speaking of which, I'll put a shout out to everyone who's watching. We're hiring 2 positions right now. We are hiring someone local here in Denver who wants to be a camera operator / editor for things that I film in the shop, and maybe travel as well, kind of depending on your circumstances, travel to China or travel, around the US. But we're open to hiring. I'm open to hiring contract camera people for some international trips too. So that's one position that has to be local because you're going to be in the shop part of the time, and then you can work remote editing part of the time. And then another position, which is remote. You can be anywhere. You need to be a U.S. citizen and have a U.S. passport, but you can live anywhere. Being a factory tour producer. So both of these are full-time positions. The factory tour producer will be basically in charge of all of the coordination that goes into the factory tours that we're doing, and I want to really ramp those up. So everything from finding factories and talking with them and making sure they're on the same page as us, organizing travel, hiring fixers and translators and drivers and whatever else we need for a particular shoot, being on site with me at the factory while we're making the videos, and making sure that goes smoothly, and then also managing the post-production process. So working with the editor to make sure that everything we did during the shoot gets accurately translated to the editor. They get all the right footage, and they know where all the footage goes, and they know the story we want to tell, and overseeing that. So if either of those are interesting, you can go to strangeparts.com/jobs. If one of the mods can throw that up on the chat, that'd be great. We are actively we're about to start interviewing. So please, if either of those seem like a good fit for you, please reach out. And actually, you can send an email. Let's see. I think you can just send an email to hiring@strangeparts.com. But we have full job descriptions on the site, and I don't know. Now I have to go look, see it's been. Put them up, and then I had a call yesterday, and I don't know. So the International Travel and Production Coordinator is what I just called a producer. We've been playing with that language. Email. I guess it says on there jobs at Strange Parts. You can email jobs or hiring at will work. Yeah, we'll get you. There's a form to fill out that I haven't linked to here yet. Just to give us some more info about you. But yeah. Yeah, someone's Rick says the wind is distracting. Yeah, it's super windy here today. There are some times a year that are super windy. Winter doesn't seem to be one of them, but it's really blowing today, and there are some power lines right out the window. So sorry, there's not a lot I can do about it. Thank you, Marlis and Obsidian, for posting that link. Let's see. Let's do 1 or 2 more questions, and then I will jump into show and tell here. We've got some exciting folks lined up, and I have some exciting stuff to show you. So what would I recommend to someone who's 40 plus learning programming? That's a great question. Trying to think if there's anything that's like age specific. I think the most important thing when learning to program is to realize it's not something that you really learn out of a book or from a course. Ultimately, all of the good programmers that I know are to some degree self-taught. So most people learn programming through projects. So yes, you need a starting point. Yes, you do need to engage with some sort of, whether it be, videos or books or reading the manual or something. But at the end of the day, I would say the most important thing, to pick a project that you're excited about, that you can work on a bunch, that is, excuse me, not too ambitious, right? Pick something kind of bite-sized, it's okay if it's over your head, but obviously you don't want to sort of set out with the goal to create true artificial intelligence the first time you're starting to write code. And yeah, find something that you're excited about that you can sort of dive into and get your hands dirty. And ultimately, I think a lot of learning to program is sort of hitting a wall and then doing the research to figure it out. And the good news is that, compared to when I learned to program, which was decades ago, there's so many good resources online, whether it's, if you hit a stumbling block, you can search, Stack Overflow is a great resource. YouTube is becoming a great resource. There's so many, questions and tutorials online. Really, like, part of being even a professional programmer at a top tier right now is sort of getting good at searching Google and other resources to sort of find, answers to your questions. The other thing that's amazing is I'll mention ChatGPT. ChatGPT is great at answering programming questions and can even write sample code for you. I have used that several times recently, and it's fantastic. Not only will it write you sample code, but it will explain how the sample code works. So, part of it, you still have to have some programming knowledge. It's not like you can tell ChatGPT, build me a fully finished iPhone app and it will just spit something out. You need to know what questions to ask it and sort of how to interpret the answers and incorporate it into the work. But it really is pretty impressive in its ability to sort of synthesize code and explain it and things like that. Yeah. I think that would be my main recommendation. Secondarily, I'll make a couple of recommendations on languages. I personally think one of the best beginner languages to learn is Python. It's my sort of general purpose language of choice. I've written a lot of Python professionally. I know probably, 15 languages, something like that. But Python's the thing that I pick up if I sort of need to write a quick tool or something. It's not perfect for all circumstances, no languages, excuse me. If I'm writing, something that needs to be interactive on a web page, obviously that has to be JavaScript. There is no other option. If I'm writing something that goes on an Arduino, then Python is becoming an option with MicroPython, but I don't think you can run. Can you run MicroPython on an Uno? Does anybody know? You can write Python for small embedded devices, but I tend to write, C and C++, which is what Arduino generally expects. But Python was actually designed as a beginner language. It was designed for beginners and for learning. And it's really kind of grown into its role as a, professional language, production language for various other things. And it has a few things that make it not suitable for really large scale production. It has a global interpreter lock, which is super technical. But, yeah, someone says you can run MicroPython on Arduino boards. Rambling Geek says it. Yeah, I just think Python's a really forgiving language, and it has less oddities than a lot of other languages. So it's really good for learning the concepts. And then I would say that the difficulty of learning your first language is way harder than learning almost every subsequent language, right? Like, languages share a lot of concepts, way more so than spoken languages. And so, once you understand how to use a for loop and an if statement and a switch statement, and, you understand what a function is and how to write that and what a class is and an object, like, that's transferable across so many different languages. So, I would separate the idea of learning to program from learning a specific language. Those are kind of two somewhat independent skills. And then I would say the third skill is really learning how to engineer software, which is actually kind of a third thing of like, okay, how do I think about making a piece of software and how do I engineer it and what pieces do I need and things like that. So yeah, that'd be my recommendation. Yeah, I wouldn't be intimidated just because you're quote unquote older. That's not really your only limitation. There is that young people have a lot more free time potentially. So that might be your barrier. The reality is you need to put hours in front of the keyboard, kind of struggling on things. It's not like you're just going to kind of follow a tutorial or follow a lesson plan and be a great programmer. So that'd be my kind of long answer there. Yeah. Yeah, and I think there are a bunch of great comments in the chat. I mean, Codex here is saying, what are you more interested in, right? Are you interested in computer science or building products? And then I think, to some extent, what you want to do, right? If your answer is like, I just want to be able to program Arduino, then maybe learning C might be a good option. Although MicroPython's great. If you say, I want to write an interactive web page, like you might want to learn JavaScript first, right? Or if you say, I want to write an iPhone app, Python nor JavaScript are really the go-to, right? You're going to want to learn Objective-C or Swift. So, if you're picking specific applications, that might influence what language to choose there. Yeah, you're welcome, Offcut Dave. I'm glad. I hope that was helpful. So, yeah. Well, let's jump into a little show and tell here. Skavrat, Marlis, if you guys want to get someone teed up here, I will jump into the thing I want to show off, and then we'll have someone. Let's do someone live here. Maybe I know Sophie is on deck, but I'll let you figure it out. So yeah, just let me know when that person is ready. So today I want to show off the very first PCB I designed. It's actually something that I designed on my first trip to China. I was so blown away by the markets and the access to quick PCB manufacturing that I designed it within my first couple of weeks of being there. I designed it on a train with some other hackers' help, and turned it into a little product that I don't sell anymore, but that I did, as a little soldering kit. So so this is an Arduino shield. It's called the SparkleShield, and I think there's still a website for it. SparkleShield.com should be online. And let's see, let's get it to boot up here. Oh, it has. Sorry, there is a slight broken trace or something that makes it weird, but that is it. It's a little oversaturated just because it's bright. There you go. So now you can sort of see, ooh, you can see it in its glory here. I'm changing frame rate. Shutter speed. Hang on. There you go. Now you can see it in its glory. So it is a. Let me get back to a reasonable place brightness wise. I think that was where I was at. So am I fully in focus here? So the cool thing about this is these are, I don't know if you can see, they're like 5mm LEDs, right? They're the standard LED, like solderable, through hole LEDs, and they're actually RGB LEDs, which may not be that surprising now, but they were pretty cool at the time. China was the first place I had seen these, and I was like, oh my God, these are awesome. And someone had already made an Arduino shield like this, who I am blanking on names, unfortunately, and I'm blanking on the name of the project. But there was a version of this that looked almost exactly the same, but it was single color LEDs. And so I said, well, why don't I make a version of that with these RGB LEDs? And it turned into a really fun project. Unfortunately, it is quite hard to solder, and I'll show you why. So the reality is this looks like a complicated board, and it looks, it's got a lot of soldering on the back. The reality is from a design perspective, this is probably one of the simplest projects I could have taken on. So let me get closer. This is not the first version that I made, but the first version was very similar to this, and I will show you why. Let me let's see if I can get this to focus. Yeah, here. So you'll notice the pins are all offset from each other. They're sort of offset in either direction, and that is the main design change I made from the very first version. So the problem with these LEDs is they have 4 pins on them, right? They have power, ground, data in, data out, just like your standard like WS8 2012s, 2812s. What Adafruit has rebranded as NeoPixels, which it annoys me that they've rebranded something else that the world already knew about to something that is now their proprietary trademark. But that name seems to have stuck. So these basically have the same chip inside them that a WS2812 has. The problem is to fit 4 legs in a 5mm LED package. You have to put the legs really close together. So the problem was that to hand solder it, if you just put the pads how you normally would, and I might have another prototype here. Let me see what I have. I think most of the prototypes are sitting in China. Yeah, okay, I do have a very early prototype here. This might be the first version of the board. This might be the original. So you can see how close those legs are to each other. And the reality is that it's very hard to hand solder, particularly as a beginner, those without making any bridges between the various legs. So this is like, if you don't make any modifications, you just kind of do the dumb pin out, a dumb like footprint for these, you end up with something that is really frustrating to solder. And the reason is that these, components almost always were made for production situations. They weren't made for hobbyists to be soldering. They were made to, wave solder or, have, really experienced solderers in the factories doing. So what I ended up having to do was get really creative with the layout of the legs. I'm going to turn on autofocus here because this is driving me nuts. Autofocus isn't great on these cameras, but so I actually offset the pads. You can see. Maybe autofocus isn't any better. All right, hang on. So I actually offset the pad from the pin. The pin is at one end of these sort of oblong, ellipses, and then they're offset. Every pin is going in a different direction, and that's to try and get the solder pads as far away from each other as I possibly could get them, and make it easier to solder. But what I learned, I made a bunch of I made, I don't know, 100, 200 of these kits and sold them. And I sold a bunch at Chaos Congress in Hamburg, and in the kit soldering area, learn to solder area. And they're still really difficult for beginners to solder. So it's why I haven't sort of continued it as a product. But it's open source. You can make your own boards if you want and get the LEDs online. So yeah, and then, it's obviously programmable, so you can put a bunch of different patterns on them. The rainbow is a convenient one that looks really nice. So yeah. So I thought I would show that off. I guess the other thing I wanted to say is, like, this looks really complicated, right? Like, this looks like a hard thing to design, and it is not. It is something that any of you could do. It requires very little understanding of circuit design. The reality is that all I had to do was hook up 3 pins, right? Most of these pins here are all just mechanical to fit in the Arduino Uno. Really, all I'm using off of here is a power pin, a ground pin, and 1 data pin. And so power and ground go to every single LED, and then the data pin just goes to the first LED in one of the rows. And then that has a data out pin that goes to the next one, and it goes to the data in of the next one, and so on. They're just daisy chained in a serpentine pattern like this, and really straightforward. And so really, the hardest part of making this was just learning to use the software, which is all PCB design software is quirky right now, and particularly the open source software. And so you just kind of have to learn the quirks of the software. There was a little bit of learning in terms of what are the restrictions on manufacturing. So how wide can your traces be, and how far away do they have to be from each other? I don't know if you can see, because this is a black PCB, it's a little hard to see the traces, but yeah, we can't really see that. But there are some traces running between them that you can see. So yeah, anyway, and this is just a simple 2-layer board. So I wanted to show this off as you can do cool stuff even if you're really new to circuit design. So if you're playing around with Arduinos and things and feel comfortable with that, consider taking the plunge to making something, trying to make your first shield. I think it's a good first project. So at some point I might make a how to make your first circuit board tutorial or something. I've been kicking around that idea. So yeah. So they're wired in series. Yes, they are wired in series for data. They are wired in parallel for power. So yeah. Yes, Lou says that they used KiCad to design some PCBs. It's a bit strange to get going, but it's actually pretty easy to use once you get used to its quirks. Awesome. Let's see if I lost any messages here. Mons, you can go ahead. If you star a message, you can go ahead and unstar it if I've already answered it. We got mods sort of helping me pick out things to throw up on screen here. What's a 2040 board, Rambling Geek? I'm not familiar with that. It might be is that like a standard for these framework laptop expansion cards? That seems awesome. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to be plugging a board directly into your laptop to debug it. Oh, a Raspberry Pi 2040. Okay, nice. Oh, a Pico. Okay, nice. Yeah, that seems like an awesome project. Awesome. Oh, so let's explain how the LEDs work. So how do I turn an individual LED on? So these are not like traditional analog LEDs or simple LEDs. These are smart LEDs. So they actually have a microchip inside them that receives data. So the Arduino has a data pin that goes to the first LED that sends out color information, color and brightness information. And then, so that LED takes its information for itself off the message and then passes the rest of the message on to the next LED. And so it's sort of this shift register where you shift on all of the colors. And that sounds complicated, but the reality is there are great libraries, open source libraries that you can use for LEDs like this. Fast LED is my library of choice that make this super easy. So in reality, I can just treat this like a grid and tell it what color it should be. Yeah. Hopefully that answers the question. Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. So it looks like we've got Sophie on deck here. Sophie, are you ready? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to be on stream here. Sweet. Okay, let's welcome Sophie on. Hi, Sophie. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's 4:39 in the morning. I am somewhat awake.
Excellent. Welcome to the stream. It's good to see you. Long time no see.
Yes. I think last time we spoke, we talked about folding iPhones.
Yes. We
haven't said anything at all since.
Yes. It's something that at some point I will pick back up, but there are a few projects. It'll become obvious once I announce what I'm working on right now, why that's on hold. So, yeah, what do you have for us today? I haven't actually seen what you're going to show off.
So let's swap cameras. That one.
And also, real quickly, where are you that you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning? I know, but I want everybody else to know.
Perth, Western Australia.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for getting up in the middle of your night to show us something cool here.
It's not abnormal for me to be up at this time, although usually I haven't gone to bed first.
Okay, fair enough.
Awesome. So this is my little Voron Zero. Let's pop some lights on.
And for context, this is a 3D printer?
Yep.
Awesome.
There we go.
Up on the big screen here.
LEDs. Wow.
Nice.
So it started out as a stock Voron Zero, which looked very, very different to this.
Okay.
I've built probably about 3 or 4 of these now, and then sold a few, given a few away. I don't really have much space here anymore. Yep. Used to be a very long bench with all my printers all the way along, and then I've moved them over there.
Nice.
They now live in a shelf. I get that even vaguely focused.
Awesome. Oh yeah, that's great.
So yeah, this one here started stock, and then I thought it'd be funny to upgrade it a bit. Realized that was quite fun, and then slowly poured more time, even more time, even more time, more money, even more money into making this thing as fast as is physically possible, really. So it starts out with NEMA 14 baby motors, like that tool, and they sit underneath at the back. I switched it to NEMA 17s, which are way bigger.
Nice.
And
NEMA is,
what else have I done?
These NEMA this is the standard size for stepper motors, like it's a standardized. Yeah.
So NEMA 14 is 36 millimeters spacing between the screw holes, which is an arbitrary measurement. And then the 17s are 42 mil.
Okay.
I think it's the screw holes. Forgive me if I'm wrong. It might be the casing size.
Okay.
Can't remember offhand.
Either way, it sounds like you're intimately familiar with dimensions here.
Yeah. Then normally there'd be MGN7 little baby rails. Why is autofocus not on? Sorry, 1 second.
All good.
How do I do this? Yeah, we'll see. I'll just manual focus. That'll work. Then it would normally have an MGN7 mounted on a piece of extrusion, the same 15 mil aluminium that the frames are made of, and that would be normally under here. But I've done away with the aluminium because that's extra weight.
Okay.
And the faster you want this thing to go, the more weight you pull off.
Yep.
So that's now just a solid MGN9 rail, which is wider.
Okay. And so that rail was sitting on top of the aluminum, and you just took away the aluminum?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did have a spare gantry
still...
in here, but I chucked that.
And that's still rigid enough?
Yep.
Awesome.
Pretty rigid. Stock fans are 30 mil tiny weenie blowers. But again, they don't kick out much cooling. And in my mission to do this, there's been lots of people that have put big external server fans on them. I've even got some in a drawer. This one. And at one point I had these massive things mounted on the outside of the frame, and I didn't put the panels on. And then these will go through little ducts and then just blow almost a curtain of air onto the part. But I found that wasn't really practical for normal printing. You're just pumping so much air and you're putting it everywhere that the parts just warp and they look horrible. So I've always been trying to stick with tool head mounted fans, which is a battle because it's extra weight.
Sure.
And everybody thinks it's silly. Again, people use Bowden extruders. So for those who don't know, there's two kinds of extruders on 3D printers, Bowden and direct drive. Direct drive is where you've got your extruder that pushes the filament mounted right on the tool head above the hot end, which is the melty bit. And then Bowden is where you've got it mounted behind the printer or offset with this tube that then pushes it in. And obviously, if you've got your motor that's pushing mounted away from the printer or away from the tool head, you've not got the weight on the tool head. So having taken that weight off, you can go faster. And I had Bowden for a while. I tried a few extruders. But again, direct drive is nicer for reliability. And so that's been another
because you don't have that flex of the filament
everywhere except
as you're pushing it so far.
And so I can use this as a normal printer to print nylons, flexibles, because it can do that. Whereas if it was Bowden, I would have a very hard time doing it.
Yeah. Sophie, what model of printer did you start out with again? I'm trying to get a mod to pull up a photo of a stock printer.
Started as a Voron 0.
Okay. Cool. We'll get one of them to pull it up here. Awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to envision exactly how different this looks than what a stock one looks like.
1 second.
Oh, you got it.
Like that.
Oh, sweet. Wow, you've made a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bonus points for the Photoshop project I was working on.
Nice. I approve.
Yeah. And then there's also the 2470. So Albert tuned the absolute living hell. Oh, I don't want that. Out of a V0 a while back. Fine. Don't cooperate with me, Google. I'm not going to play this because that's okay. Great, YouTube ads, lovely. Anyway, the 2470 is a very, very tricked out V0 that use external fans, but mostly stock printer.
Okay.
And then there's a few of us that have taken mods from that, upgraded them, modified them a bit.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of the work on this here was done by the Mr. Fish on lots of the Discords. Okay. He did the AB drives that do the NEMA 17s upside down. I had some that weren't compatible with this frame because the stock frame actually ends about here, height-wise. So I've changed all of the uprights out for tool extrusions so that I can have a single piece frame.
Oh my God.
Because the stock one has a printed top.
Yep.
And the printed top is kind of flexible. It's kind of gross. The panels don't sit in.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look pretty. You know, bonus points for hot pink.
Yes.
All my panels are quick release as well.
I don't know if you've been seeing all the comments in the chat about how much people like the pink vibe you got going on here.
Oh, yeah. I've got a Print NC build that I'm starting soon. So for those who don't know, Print NC is a CNC built mostly out of very, very big bits of steel.
Ooh, that's fun.
That's where I started. So this is my new workbench that I built the other day.
Nice.
And that whole workbench is going to be occupied by a CNC in probably Monday morning. I'm going to start building it when the bits arrive.
Nice.
But these bits of steel here, they're pretty chunky.
Yeah.
And so the whole frame, all of the motion system is built out of bits of steel. And the idea of the Print NC is you print a few little parts, and then after you've got your CNC running, you turn it into aluminium. And you CNC those out of aluminium.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that.
Build. But I call that the pink NC because I'm spray painting the entire steel frame pink.
You're not going to anodize it? Well, I guess you're doing steel, not aluminum.
Yeah, you can anodize steel. It's a bit of a pain. And powder coating is out of budget. I've already
all right.
Yeah, I've blown $3,000 on this already. It's it's pushing the budget. I started this Print NC build with. I was originally going to buy a lead CNC kit, and that was going to set me back about $2,000. And I've just slowly poured more money into this and gone, I can do a Print NC.
Nice.
Well,
I've been playing with this. I've been playing with this. I've been playing with this Carvera that I got sent, and within, I don't know, maybe a week of using it, maybe 2 weeks, I already thought about, okay, I want to modify this. I want to add this on, right? Like I want to add a port so I can run vacuum chucks in it. I want to, so I'm already sensing this is going to be a very expensive rabbit hole to go down. And I'm already bumping up against, it's genuinely a nice CNC, and I'm really liking it. And I'm already wanting something bigger and faster and stronger. And it's dangerous. It is a dangerous holding.
There's a Print NC Mini that's a middle ground between the big Print NC and something like Carvera.
Nice.
That's a good build.
That's awesome.
Same concept. I just think it doesn't use the 2.2 kilowatt spindle because that thing there is absolutely massive. Yeah. 1 second.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see your printer in action because nice. Oh yeah, that's massive. That's way bigger than my spindle.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, that's chunky. You'll be able to do a fair amount of damage with that. Well, are you able to fire up
steel?
I would love to be able to do that. The Carvera definitely cannot do steel. I'm getting it to run fairly well with aluminum, but I'm running it at much more aggressive tool sizes and feeds and speeds than they originally suggested, and having good results. So, but yeah, steel's, you got to run real slow and gentle on a Carvera. So I'm jealous. Soon I will get something I can run steel on. I would love to see this printer in action because my understanding is you can run this much faster than I've seen just about any 3D printer run. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yesterday I did this little benchy here in about 16 minutes.
Oh my God.
We focus on that.
A little rough around the edges, but
considered, that's a bit slow, to be honest.
Okay.
That was with Z-hop on, so between each layer, the bed moves down so that it doesn't drag. It makes the print a heck of a lot quieter when it's not dragging. But we're going to do it without that because it goes faster. So just uploading
here for it.
Preheat. Go. Let's give it a couple of minutes to warm up because I didn't think to preheat beforehand. There we go.
So Scaperat's asking what your speed record is for a benchy print.
Speed record is, I've done one in about 2 minutes 60.
Oh my God.
It wasn't on this machine.
Okay.
In its current state. It was in this one when it had, I don't know if you saw, at one point I had a blue frame on this with purple prints.
Okay.
Twins with those two over there.
Yep.
I've slowly started ditching that color scheme, which is sad.
I like the pink. The purple and blue is cool, but the pink and black is pretty rad.
The first one in the purple and blue was actually the V0.
Okay.
So the first V0 I built, I gave to a friend. I say gave.
Yep.
Pretty much sold. And then I went and got this one, which was mostly pre-built by somebody over in Sydney, I want to say. And yeah, I love the purple and blue so much that I bought this one. And then I got the Prusa on the right, and then the Trident after that. Trying to keep the color scheme. And now I've gone and broken the color scheme. So now the new color scheme is pink and black.
Excellent.
Yeah. We are at 52 degrees out of 110 on the bed and 220 out of 260 on the hot end.
Awesome.
So getting there. All of the black bits in this are printed, well, other than the frame extension, which I'll get to in a minute. They're all printed in ABS with glass fiber reinforcement to make them more rigid. ABS with glass fiber is, it's not a cheap material to print, although most of what I print isn't exactly cheap material. There's a lot of carbon filled, glass filled stuff now because it's what I do for work. Lots of that. So yeah.
Do you need a special nozzle for printing that?
So printing glass fiber and carbon fiber, you need a nozzle that's not going to wear down. So hardened steel is pretty common. The problem with hardened steel is the thermal conductivity is pretty garbage. So we have tungsten carbide. This is where the rabbit hole of spending excessive amounts of money starts, really.
This is not where I thought you were going to go. I thought you were going to say those crazy sapphire nozzles that I see advertised.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Why not?
I have somewhere in this room. It's a little bit disorganized. I've just tidied everything to fit these two new benches in for the laser and the CNC, and I've got no idea where anything is. Somewhere I've got a ruby nozzle, and what happens with lots of those is they've got this insert in the end, and if you print for too long with that nozzle at too high temps or whatever circumstances that are outside of the manufacturer's original envelope, which they tell you after you file a warranty claim, the tips drop out. So Fetus made a tungsten carbide nozzle, which is actually copper for better thermal conductivity on the top. And then it's got a carbide tip, and those tips drop out. So,
because are they just like press fitting them into the body?
Yeah, the diamond back, which is the diamond one, they're using a crimped over end, so they insert it and then they fold over the edges.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
So
but obviously, you can't do that with ruby, or is it ruby or sapphire that the fancy tips are?
There's sapphire ones, there's ruby ones, there's diamond ones.
But obviously, none of those materials you can crimp.
They'll put it in a nozzle.
Yeah.
No, you don't crimp that. You crimp the outside nozzle material over it.
Oh, off the business end.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of holds it in.
Yeah.
I think there's a picture on the Diamondback side.
Okay.
But
interesting.
The problem is lots of those still use hardened steel for the back end, and it's not as thermally conductive.
Got it.
So people are using CHT nozzles, which are core heating.
What's that? How does that work?
Find it. Oh, AirPod fell out. Apologies to everybody that just heard that.
Oh, no, you're good. It didn't sound bad.
Oh, yay. That's the CHT.
Okay.
And so what they've done is they've split the melt zone into 3 sections so that the fins in the middle will hit the filament, and then you're heating it through the core as well. So you've got more even thermal distribution.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't have a hot exterior and a cold middle.
Yeah.
Of your
the temperature gradient in most nozzles is pretty small, but when you're printing so ridiculously fast, every little bit of extra thermal interface you can get is a benefit.
Sure, that makes sense. Because you have very little time to transfer heat.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago when the CHT launched, I thought it'd be funny to clone it. So I talked to a few of my manufacturing friends in China, and we got these, which are now absolutely everywhere.
Okay.
So I basically took a 2.85 millimeter old school brass nozzle and went, let's slap an insert in it.
Yeah.
And it's just 3 holes drilled through and then lathe turned down so that it's the holes kind of intersect with the edge. And yeah, they worked pretty well. We got an angry letter at one point. Yeah, that's a copper insert. We got an angry letter. We stopped selling them, and the folks in China took over.
And China took over. Yep, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
One of the advantages to being a Chinese manufacturer is that you have to worry a lot less about IP restrictions.
Yes, other than these Mosquito hot ends. So this is a cloned Mosquito hot end. Mosquito is done by Slice Engineering in the States.
Okay.
And they've just got their patent granted in China, and it drives me insane because I very much disagree with their patent. I will not go there. That's a whole debate in itself. So back to CHTs. In carbide, you can't really get those thin fins. Right. So we did this. I don't know how well it's going to focus. Hang on. I'm just going to pull it up here. Let's see. Does it want to play ball? Yes, it does. There we go. That's what the back end of it looks like.
Oh.
So kind of like a flower.
Yeah, sure.
There is another nozzle called the Bosel, which is very similar. Both myself and the guys that were working on Bosel were working on the same project about the same time. So we ended up with 2 different projects. Long story short, factory in China tried to sell me their nozzle using the same molds. So we got set back like 3-4 months just because, I saw them launch and went, that looks very similar to what the factory have told me that I need to change. So now we've got 5 flutes instead of
then they could just take your NRE and Chaboudois, good enough.
Yeah.
Take your NRE, only make 1 tool, and good to go.
Yeah, the molds for a set of carbide nozzles are about $3,000 to $4,000. They're not cheap.
Sure.
And I see exactly why they were trying to.
that is cheap as far as tooling goes, but yes, tooling is not cheap.
They're very cheap for tooling. But these ones here have that geometry in the back end. And that's what I print with on the Trident, and I think on the Cruiser now as well, because it just gives you a little bit more flow boost.
Awesome. Well, are we ready to go here? Is this thing hot and ready to fire up?
Well, the bed is not quite up to temp, but it'll do.
Okay. Okay.
Let's start the print.
I'm very excited to see this.
File selected. Okay, I'm going to just shut the door for a second. Let it heat up a bit further. It's whinging at me. It says that I need to wait until it gets to 100 before it's going to start. It's at 97. We'll be there in a second.
Okay. Yep.
I put a DC bed in this because it's safer than the AC one.
Oh.
And it heats up so much slower.
Yeah. Most beds are DC and like stock printers, right?
Yes and no. Off the shelf ones, most of the time, yes, because it's safer.
Okay. Yep.
When you go into Vorons, no. So the Trident in the corner is AC.
Okay.
That's running 240 volt AC, about 700 watts.
Okay.
It's a
How
fairly
much
big,
what's the price point of these Vorons stock?
So the V0s go for about 400 US, I think.
Okay. All right. So not terribly expensive printers.
Bad.
Yeah.
No. They're obviously kits, so you have to build it yourself.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's not too bad. Let's see. Okay, so V0, 339 from FormBot.
Oh, wow.
So that's
okay.
that's the base kit. And you can get it to ship from the States for $389.
Yep.
It's
okay.
not that bad. You change the hot end out, it gets more expensive, obviously. But
yeah.
They're reasonably cheap.
So the slightly above entry level, sort of next tier above entry level. Yep.
But obviously you've lost all your build volume compared to an Ender.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's tiny. So they don't really compete in the same field.
Sure.
Even given the fact that these absolutely suck to build. I say suck to build. They're fun to build, and for a first time build, if you've never done another printer before, they suck.
Yeah.
But first time build on one of these, if you've put together an Ender, you've worked on an Ender, any other printer before, it's a pretty simple build. About 10 hours for first time.
Okay.
And then after that, I do one in about 4 hours now.
Okay. Yeah.
I've torn this thing down to parts so many times. It's crazy.
With the amount of modification you've done,
Yeah,
I bet.
Right. Let's home all access. So this is currently running 24 volts just off a little backpacked power supply on the back.
Okay.
Backpacked because I stuck a 36 volt one underneath with VHV tape, and I can't be bothered removing it.
Oh.
So at some point it'll get a new power supply, a new motherboard.
Nice.
Because this is currently running the absolute cheapest motherboard I had in the bin.
Yeah.
I fried a motherboard. It's up here. It got so hot that the MOSFETs decided to try desoldering themselves.
I know that problem. We had that problem with BattleBot motor controllers for the brushless we were running. Yeah. If you run too much current, stuff just starts falling off the board or floating around, depending on what orientation it's in.
It's funny because often you look at it and you go, did I solder that on right? Did I use the wrong solder phase or something? And then you go, oh, it melted the solder.
Exactly. Yep. I'm just running that much current through the board.
Yeah. The joys.
That's awesome.
Right. There we go. And let's go start a print. Hopefully, this here is not going to try and tear itself apart, because I didn't actually put in any sane default parameters. I just slapped random numbers in and hope for the best.
Excellent.
That's the way. And now what's it doing? It's now heating up to 260 because it didn't do that before. Great.
Oh, whoops.
Another 10 seconds of waiting.
All right, so I'll field some questions here. What kind of beds do you prefer to print on, particularly when you're printing this fast?
So generally speaking, swing steel PEI. It's cheap. It works. These ones here are from Ground Up Tech in India. I like them so much. They're amazing. When you're printing faster, often parts try and warp more. So we've got Goop. Goop is, for simplicity's sake, it's basically just concentrated hairspray.
Okay.
It's slightly different. It's made from polyvinyl propylene and polyvinyl alcohol. PVP, PVOH, and mixed with isopropyl alcohol or methylated spirits, and then distilled water.
Okay.
Yeah, vat
So
of that
basically
mixed
glue.
up in one of these a couple of months ago. Yeah. It's basically glue. It's the same as Vision Miner's nanopolymer or Dimfix or any of the commercially available bed adhesives.
Got it. Okay. I've never used a bed adhesive. I've got my Creality CR10 here that, I just slap one of those textured beds on and pray for the best.
Yeah. Textured plasticky kind of steel.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see if you're showing.
Yeah, no, plasticky, like a vinyl type thing.
Yeah. So PEI is really nice to work with. Have I got any spares? Nope, they're over there. Oh well.
Is it textured, or how does that work?
It's one sec. I'll just go and grab one.
Okay. Cool.
There we go. Oh, print started while we were.
Cool. Let's watch that. Yeah.
What? Okay, so that's slow as anything. This is boring.
Okay. Is that because you're on the first layer?
Velocity 200. Yeah, let's take that to 500. See what happens. No, it's still boring. Why is that boring? That's boring. Great. Let's bump that. Let's bump that. Let's not go to 7,000. That's probably pushing it. Speed. Great. Let's just crank that. There we go. See what happens there. There we go. That's a bit of an improvement. Then 1,000. That's boring. Let's stick that to 2,000. Yeah, that's boring as well. Let's stick that to 12. And let's bump that a bit as well. 8,000. No, you know what? 200% is slow. Let's go to 400%. No, I still think that's too slow. 450%.
And are these speeds that you can expect reasonable, usable results out of?
This is pretty much as fast as a stock Voron Zero will happily print.
Okay.
Let's stick this up to 600%. I'm bored.
It doesn't look like like your printer is feeling overtaxed.
No, not the
moment.
moment.
Not getting crazy vibrations or, That's amazing.
Let's go to... I'm not sure whether or not I want to just absolutely send it and then watch it actually tear itself apart this time.
Right. Well, only go up to what you think you're comfortable with, but I'd love to see it as, oh my God. Look at that.
This is about what I'll print out average normal daily print speeds.
Yep. Okay.
This is not anything particularly fast.
Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out what setting is bogging this thing down. 800%. See what happens there.
I like that you think this is not very impressive and is bogged down.
Well, this isn't going to be a 4-minute benchy. When it's a 4-minute benchy, the whole thing's all over the desk.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's got tiny weeny little feet.
Yep. Yeah, you need to make a bench mounted bolted down version.
So my 4-minute benchy, actually, even the 2-minute 16, I think, is the record.
Yep.
Something like that. I sat on the printer. There's a picture somewhere on a Discord somewhere of me sat on top of the previous version of this with this air compressor blowing through a hole that I'd cut in the side.
Amazing.
Just to cool the part.
Amazing.
And yeah, I couldn't figure out what was vibrating more, me sat on the printer or the air compressor on the floor.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you show us how fast the spool is moving here?
Yep.
It's cooking.
Not too fast, still.
Yeah.
1 meter a second. That's what it's going to try and hit. I don't know. That doesn't look like a meter a second to me.
Yeah.
Let's set that to 5,000.
This very much seems like a printer for people with short attention spans.
Yeah. I think a lot of us in the printer modding community are like that. Yeah. Lots of us just...
Who then hyper-focus for months and put, hundreds of hours into making it print as fast as possible so that you don't have to wait an extra, 30 minutes.
I would say that would be an understatement, hyper-focusing for hundreds of hours.
Yeah. I figured.
Yeah. I built one of these up for a friend a while back, the same as mine before I actually built mine. And that sat on my desk for probably about 6 months while I was doing it, as I was changing every single part out one at a time, going, that's not good enough. Change.
Amazing.
So every single part has been overhauled on these.
Well, I'm definitely envious.
It's crazy.
The thing I dislike the most about 3D printers is how dang long they take to print. I want laser cutter speeds,
Oh, laser cutter speeds.
Yeah, I want that instant satisfaction,
Yeah. Instant gratification, yeah.
Yep.
Well, if you ever decide to build one, CAD is out there. It's open source.
I might have to come talk to you at some point
just
here.
be able to download. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just buy a base formbot kit, and then if you were to build this from a base formbot kit and extra parts, it's only going to cost you about $150 more.
Wow.
It's actually really cheap to do.
Wow.
And I've been looking to just making little upgrade kits for the differences, because there's not that many parts. It's a beautifully simple upgrade to do.
Yeah, you should consider doing that.
So rock solid reliability.
Yeah, you should consider doing that, because particularly if somebody's putting their kit together the first time and just buys your kit at the same time, I bet it's really ends up not being that much work if you've got all the parts ready to go.
At some point, I'm going to try and get that 36 volt working. So when you increase voltages, more voltage, more zoom is pretty much the way that I explain it. So 24
probably
volts
get faster acceleration. Because you get higher torque.
I originally went for 36 volt over 48 volts. So everyone in the 3D printing community is going 48 volt.
Yep.
I went 36 because the stepper drivers, because of the glorious worldwide silicon shortage, were out of stock everywhere.
Right.
And I wanted to use some cheapo ones that would just about cope with 36.
Yep.
I bought a whole stack of the 48 volt capable ones, and that's now what I'm running because I blew up the other ones.
Nice.
So I could go 48 volt now, and I've got these massive power supplies over here.
Oh, God.
They're actually for a client. They're not technically mine, but there is technically going to be one spare. So maybe I'll just slap a DIN rail on the back of this and DIN mount a power supply on it. These are ACM sheets, so they should be reasonably solid.
Yep.
By the way, I love
this
ACM.
Is awesome.
ACM is amazing. It is the best construction material ever.
What is it? I have never heard of it.
So ACM stands for aluminium composite material.
Okay.
Grab a sheet. I've got a whole materials library down here. Let's grab a random sheet. Ow, that's my finger. There we go. So I bought these offcuts on Facebook Marketplace. The land of dreams, really. For about 40 Australian dollars for all of them. And these are great. It's very, very thin aluminium sandwiched onto, I believe, a polycarbonate core, but don't quote me on that. If this
so it's thin aluminum on as sort of a like a veneer on a polycarbonate or some sort of plastic.
Yeah, you can probably see it better on the printer actually. That was a good thud. There we are.
Okay.
So it's just aluminium onto plastic.
Yeah, nice.
And the thermal properties of this are insane as well. It's really great at insulating. I did custom glitter
Interesting.
ones
That makes
because
sense.
glitter is cool.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah, priorities.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is painfully slow.
Okay.
This is nowhere near as fast as yesterday, and I'm a little bit sad about that. I'm going to try again. Let's go 1,000% speed. See if that does anything.
Okay.
Probably won't. Oh, it did something. Yeah, that looks a little faster.
Okay.
Great. Let's try 1,200. It's still got Z-hop on. That's why it's slow. But this is actually looking like a fairly good quality benchy.
Yeah.
I'm
it's a little out of focus for us. But...
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Well, that's not bad. You definitely could get usable sort of mechanical parts out of this.
Yeah. So First Robotics have one of these, our local team.
Yeah.
And they print replacement parts on it all the time when they're at comp because you're churning through bits.
Sure.
When I used to do RoboCup, we could have really done with one of these. There's a couple of teams that do Vex as well that have Voron Zeros that they're modding and upgrading to do the same. Yeah,
I mean, any environment where you're prototyping mechanical parts, this just looks like a huge win.
It's amazing. Yeah. Even the Trident, I'm running mine painfully slowly at the moment because oh, there we go, focus. Because I'm doing a production run on it and I'm not entirely trusting of my tuning at the moment.
Sure.
For speed. I blew up a fan yesterday, running it too fast. And the fan decided that its bearings didn't want to cope up with the vibrations, so that died.
I mean, makes sense.
It's the same fans on the Trident and the V0 as well. They're technically end of life parts. They've been pulled from laptops, we believe. You can find them on AliExpress for fairly cheap, but the exact dimensions of them seem to change every few weeks.
Yeah.
Which absolutely sucks because I can't design any parts around them. But they're pulling them out of laptops, refurbishing them, and selling them. Yeah.
I mean, makes sense,
and
right?
For the most part, they work fine, unless you get one that's been in a laptop that's been used and abused for several years. Okay, we hit the end of the filament going into the tube. Let's see if we finish the print before the filament runs out.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to see that. See you pull it out, and then I think we've got a few people more to show off here. So we'll probably wind down at that point and move on to the next person. If Skate if you want to line up the next person, that'd be awesome. Oh, this is a stool you were showing up on Discord.
Yes.
So explain to folks what this is.
So Stratasys are a very, very big 3D printing company. They were kind of the original 3D printing company. They make very, very expensive machines with very, very expensive consumables. I don't really like them because they're all proprietary. But I found a bunch of Stratasys filament at a bankruptcy auction a while back. And I went, you know what? I really want these giant metal cans full of filament. Yeah. So I bought a load because you can get Ultim, which is PEI. Pretty much. It's very, very high temp material. And then there was polycarbonate, nylons, all sorts of other goodies as well. And so I bought a couple of, probably about 20 odd spools of that. I misspelt Stratasys in a message to someone and wrote Strataseat. And since then, I went, you know what? That would make quite a nice stool. So that's how this came to be.
I love it. And the canisters are to keep the filament dry, right? So that it doesn't absorb moisture? Yeah. That's awesome.
I've got one over
I love
here.
It.
Here we go. Here's another one. So you've just got a plastic spool that sits in here and then a whole load of deskins.
Got it.
And the idea
is so
that
over-engineered
because they're steel, you will never have to dry the filament. It's for industrial use, so they throw money at their problems really. But Stratasys filaments, most of them, the ones that I've got, were made around 2012. And when I cracked them open, the filament was bone dry still. Since 2012. So
that's amazing.
10, nearly 11 years for some of them.
That's impressive.
It's crazy.
Well, am I going to hell for storing my filament out just on a shelf with no moisture control? Okay, so no.
I'm guilty.
Okay. I've never really had any problem with it, but I do notice a difference in how brittle it is when it's been sitting on the shelf a while versus when I freshly get out of the
I've
bag.
got dry boxes on either side.
Okay. Yep.
Which are just currently bolted on with self-tapping screws. They'll probably fall out eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, drying filament's very, very important. I run a dry box on all the printers. That one as well.
Do? Okay.
That one's not plugged in. But
I
actually pre-dry as well. I've got an eBoss Easy Dry, which is a fairly expensive proper filament dryer. It's sat there on the left on that shelf. And that's where
so you
I'll
just
pre-dry
dry it before you throw it on the printer.
Yeah, so I pre-dry and then I dry whilst printing as well.
Got it.
Because in Perth, the humidity is crazy.
Yeah.
Just even at ambient, we're about 14%.
Say again?
We're about 14% ambient at the moment.
Okay.
But we're in the middle of summer. So it's easily hitting 40, 50% in here.
Yeah, I mean, we average probably between 10 and 20%.
On the shelf is a bad idea.
Yeah, it's super dry up here. Static is an issue. I think the filament's staying pretty dry. Awesome. Well, let's check out this finished print, and then are we out of filament?
We are not yet somehow.
Okay. Well, let's check the quality of this, and then I'm going to move on to some other folks here. This has been fantastic.
Oh no, we ran out of filament.
Okay.
We did.
Let's see if you can focus for us, and we'll see the finished print. Yeah, so a little goopy on top, but boy, that looks great. That's impressive, Sophie.
That is a good start.
Yep.
The number of times that I've logged into the web UI and hit that one when it's running production parts when I'm tinkering.
Oh no!
It is so infuriating because once you cancel the print, you can't restart it. And so I've now color coded the UI. So this one is the pink one.
Yep.
That one's the blue one.
Got it.
Yeah. A little knob off. So that's the advantage of PEI. It holds the goop as well. And the goop also releases when it cools. So if I slap this in front of the aircon, it will just pop off.
Oh,
which is how I cheat and get them out quickly.
Can you focus again?
Yep.
Awesome.
So
that's not bad.
However long that took, that was running for. If anybody timed that would be great. But this one here, that was running for 18 minutes. So yeah. Not
not a speed record,
not as fast as yesterday, but yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't quite know what made it go so slowly today compared to yesterday, but I think that's actually a nicer print compared to yesterday.
Yeah, that's not bad. It would be very usable.
Yeah, it's probably about what you get off a stock untuned Ender 3.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome.
No hate to Enders. I love them as machines. I just outgrew mine. And yeah, they're good starter machines.
Yeah, awesome.
Last a few years and then you upgrade it.
I've got a couple questions from the audience here, and then we'll move on. So
I will pop back over to my main camera, and then you can actually see me.
Awesome, perfect.
Pop that one there.
So Rambling Geek asks, how long does a high quality print take on this machine? Like if you were to get something that's a nice finish.
High quality is a bit of a arbitrary.
Sure. What you would consider high quality.
But for a good high quality benchy, I'd probably be putting it in maybe 25-ish minutes.
Okay.
I do on occasion run parts on this V0. Not often because I've got the other two machines that are generally printing slow and tuned for quality over speed. But yeah, I've got none easily accessible. But yeah, high quality Benchy will probably be around 25 minutes.
Okay, awesome. That's a good sort of reference point. And then the last question, it turns out there were some duplicates. Does the material have enough time to like cool down and set before the next layer? Like, I mean, you're printing layers so fast.
So that's what your tool head fans are for. The bigger your tool head fans, the more cooling you can get into your layers. When I've printed ridiculously fast, I just use an air compressor because it's funny. It's not advisable. It's incredibly noisy, and I've had a few prints where the part released from the bed because the bed got too cold from the air compressor, and it just fires the print to the back wall. One of the panels I've got somewhere in a drawer has just got a massive dent in it where the print hit it.
Has anybody run an airline next to the Bowden tube or the filament tube?
Yep.
I guess you're running direct drive with
bird
compressed
air cooling.
Yeah, and then you don't have to have any
bird
fans
air
on.
Cooling's pretty common. It's not. The implementations so far for bird air haven't had enough flow to actually cool the prints any better than fans. When you're
but it does seem like you could take some weight off your head. It seems like you could reduce weight.
I've just left the. I'm trying to keep the ability to do high quality parts as well as high speed parts. So that's why I've still got the fans on there. It's because when you're curtain cooling or compressed air cooling or even CPAP cooling, you just don't quite get that quality. CPAP is another technology that people are using for it as well.
So it's a CPAP like you would sleep with, using that as an air compressor?
Yep.
Amazing.
Vez 3D's done a fair bit of that.
Amazing. We've got a few more questions trickling in. What layer height were you running on that Benji?
That was 0.24, I think. 0.22.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's pretty thin.
Generally, I run about 0.12 on all my machines because I can. Speed-wise, they're not really bottlenecked by that.
Sure.
So all the parts that are on this machine that I've printed on the Trident, they were all done at 0.12. Okay.
And then last question. Just can you explain what tuning a printer means for those that aren't printer nuts?
So tuning a printer, it's dialing in your speeds, your retraction settings. Often when I print ridiculously fast, I've got retraction off because that takes more time to pull the filament back out of the hot end. So there's lots of things that when you're printing ridiculously fast, that you just don't bother with because it doesn't matter if you're just trying to get a very, very fast, stringy, disgusting looking part out. But yeah, tuning on the Vorons, there's a lot of input shaper as well. That's very important. So I've got this little harness that I've made here, which has got an ADXL 345 magnetometer, gyroscope, accelerometer combination unit on it. And then on this end, I have at points soldered a Pi Pico. So then I've got a USB out that I can plug into the Pi that's in the printer. I did cut the Pico off because I needed it for something else. But yeah, that mounts onto the nozzle through the hole. M6 thread just screws straight up. And then it vibrates the tool head around. And that will then shows you how fast the printer is able to go. For what it would call sane print speeds, or even insane print speeds.
So you're sort of characterizing the mechanical properties of the printer at high speed. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sophie, for getting up in the middle of the night to show us all this. This is awesome. This is super cool.
Thank you. Doing its own thing now.
Nice. Awesome.
There we go.
That's crazy.
That's the speed.
That's crazy. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing and answering all sorts of questions. And I might have to come talk to you about creating a souped up printer here at some point to satisfy my impatience for parts. I'm jealous of your print speeds.
My dare would be to do a 250 mil trident. So that's a 350 mil.
Okay.
But getting a 250 mil, you can go faster because the belts have to move less.
Sure.
And those are really fun to tune. You can get them almost as fast as the V0s, just based on the motion system.
Yep.
But it's actually a usable printer for functional parts as well.
Nice.
Which is what I love.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And I'm gonna go ahead and bring some other people up here at Mods. I don't know where we're at, but thanks, Sophie, and hopefully you'll stick around. But if you don't, I understand. It's the middle of the night for you. All right. Cheers.
5 in the morning now.
Nice.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Oh, that was awesome. I love when people get really obsessed about something and try and dial it in and optimize it as best they can. That is amazing. Mods, where are we at? Do we have some okay. Oh, sweet. Okay. So let's see. We have is Ayush in the chat? I know you had signed up last time and we didn't get to you, and I feel bad about it. If you're around, holler. But I guess Doug has some stuff to show off here. Who's Dougie in Discord? Let's see what you have. Oh, yes, I remember this one. Okay, give me a minute. Let me bring it up here. Sorry, because the show and tells are new, we are still figuring out the best way for me to show stuff on screen. What do I need here to do this? Sorry, I have multiple links that are not clickable. Whoops. Give me 1 sec to bring these images up here. We're going to have to develop a better workflow for this. I'm saving images to my machine right now individually. All right. Thank you all for being patient. And I'm glad there's so many folks watching. It makes me really excited. My goal is really that this is a community place where people can show off cool stuff they've done, and then we can carry on all of the conversations from here into Discord. Pretty much all of the people you're seeing present are people that hang out on the Discord. So if you've got questions for Sophie or anybody else you see today about anything they've showed, please holler in there. And if you haven't joined, let's throw up some links here. Yeah, so let me throw this up, and I think there's a clickable link in the chat. And let's get some photos open so we can start looking at this. So, all right. So I think, well, let's start with the photo. And let me screen share. Sorry, this is slow. Oh, this is fine. Okay. So, this is, like I said, this is from Doug, and this is, let me drop my lower third. Oh, somebody already did. Okay, cool. Thank you, Mod, whoever did that. All right, so Doug has written, he said, a friend had a 2013 MacBook Pro, Mac Pro, the trash can Mac, right? So the aluminum cylinder that was running hot, and he refused to repaste it, given his lack of experience and the difficulty of the teardown. So repaste put new thermal paste on the CPU to the heatsink cooler. The computer needed to get by for another 6 months until he built a replacement. I made him this supplemental base that adds a dust filter and a high static pressure fan. the middle piece has a metal mesh to work as the filter. So let's see, there's an exploded view. So I guess this sat underneath, is that right? Look at chat here and see what Doug responds. I think Doug's in chat. Yeah, so I think this sat on top. And then we have other pictures, which I can get to hopefully. That's the other thing, which I'll talk about in a sec. So this is the exploded view here. This looks like a fun modeling / 3D printing project here. And I don't quite know where the mesh sat, but I guess there's some filtering going on here. Yeah, under it. Okay, so it sits underneath it, and the fan in the system blows up and out by default. So this is adding more airflow, it sounds like. And then he also writes, also adapting the design to work as a mosquito trap. And that's this here, I believe. Yeah, mosquito catcher. And he said, it's still a work in progress, but the fan blows air down into the base, and then that same mesh works as a trap. And he said, still working on the lure technique. That's pretty awesome. I love it. I love the repurposing as well here. That's very cool, Doug. Took about 2 days to print the main piece here. Nice. He says, I was told it helped keep the system cool enough to keep playing games for those few months. That's awesome. So Triple Halt is asking, where would I go about posting a little thing I'm proud of for the stream? There is a form. If you go to strangeparts.com/showandtell, it's just a Google form, and it just helps put you in the queue, so you can show stuff off. So yeah, if anyone wants to show anything off, we've got about another half hour. So yeah, we'll bring up a few more folks. I hear Professor Tops has something he wants to show off. He showed us his amazing Pokemon lab last week, which is 16, among other things, 16 GameCubes all hooked up to a screen, so we could play 16 different instances of GameCube Pokemon, all with one controller to look for shinies, which is incredible. Yeah, super awesome. Doug, this is amazing. Thank you for sharing it with us. What a fun little hack to keep an older machine running longer than it wants to. I love it. Let me pop back over to chat here. Yeah. Awesome. Ayush, if you're in the chat, check Discord. Just put that up on screen in case you're not totally paying attention to chat or didn't hear me earlier. We'd love to have you present if you're around. Okay. Just trying to keep my eye on all the different back channels we got here. I would like to send a huge shout out to Scavrat and DJ Marlis and Obsidian for moderating today. This is a little bit more hands-on than just moderating a normal stream, because they're helping everybody behind the scenes get cameras set up and double check everything, so I can bring them up on stage when they're ready. So I really appreciate all of their help. They're volunteers. Please say thank you to the mods for contributing time to make this run smoothly. So I'm hugely appreciative, and as well, all three of them, but particularly DJ Marlis, really took the initiative on helping me figure out what platform to use that we could easily bring people up and just have it all run in web browsers and not have to deal with OBS and all sorts of crazy things. Marlis went through a whole bunch of different platforms and tried them all out. And we ended up with Restream, which is working really great. So and Scabrat and Obsidian helped demo and play around with it. So really thankful to them. This wouldn't be possible without the mods. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Oh, I know what Tops wants to show off, and I'm excited to see it. Okay, let's have a look here. Let's see where we're at. Okay, here Tops is almost ready. I'm going to show off something in the meantime then. So this is a little cool thing that I found in Shenzhen a number of years ago that were all over the markets at the time. And I've heard they're less prevalent now. Some of you might have seen this. I don't know if it will turn on. I've been charging it, but don't know if it actually will turn on for us. But it's a very simple little children's toy. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to turn on. I have to figure out what's going on with it. But it's, it's basically like a self-stabilizing helicopter sort of setup. And it runs fairly stable. Like it can center itself in air and stay. There's no air current. Stay pretty much in the same place. And then it has an IR LED and an IR receiver on the bottom, and it uses that for proximity sensing. So you can have it hover like above your hand, so that it will keep like relatively a common stable distance from your hand. And so a lot of the guys in Shenzhen that were selling these would sort of, have it floating on their hand as a demo kind of thing. And the thing that's interesting about this is the price point. So if I remember correctly, I probably paid somewhere between probably around 20 RMB is what I'm remembering. It might have been as high as 30, but we're talking like somewhere between like $3 to $5 for this, right? And I bought one, right? So I might have gotten, kind of a wholesale price, but it wasn't volume pricing. And I want to show you. So just to set the context, the reason this is interesting is because like if you want to make profit off of something that costs $3, it can't cost you $3 to make. It has to be cheaper than that. So the total cost to make this can't be more than like $1 or $2. I might have my prices off slightly. It might be $3 to make this, but there's a lot of electronics in here. It comes with this, a charging cable, which of all things has a barrel jack on it. I'm guessing because USB jacks are like micro USB are more expensive than barrel jacks. And then, sorry, I have it sort of taken apart. I had it in the box earlier, but I was showing a friend that stopped by. So it comes with its own box, right? Which includes like molded plastic to put it in. Like boxes cost money, right? And it's a fully printed box, right? I'm sure not licensed from Despicable Me. I'm sure this is totally unauthorized. And then it also comes with a remote kill switch, which is IR, which is crazy. One of the really interesting things. Well, let me open this up. I've got 2 screws to take out here. Sorry, I don't have my overhead camera working. I'm going to try and get that working for the next stream, but no promises. The problem is the cameras I stream on, I also shoot on the rest of the week, and so I have to sort of scramble to get them. It's actually sitting back there, but I don't have a mount for it over my computer here. So, okay, so this is the inside, and there are some interesting things about this, right? So part of what makes this interesting is like, well, how do we make this for as little as possible, which is something that Shenzhen is particularly good at. But where is the battery on this? So this is IR LED here, and then some sort of, I don't know, IR, I don't know, diode or resistor or something. And then single-sided PCB, because double-sided is too expensive, right? With a handful of, with a single chip on it and maybe a power regulator and a few passives and a barrel jack. Oh, no, it might have either either 2 power regulators or 2 resistors on it, in there. Sorry, I'm trying to find the focal plane here. And a switch, right? And then where's the battery? This is the power source, not the battery. There is no battery in here. This is actually a super cap. And then obviously the motor to run this thing with a set of plastic gears, right? So why does this have a super cap, right? Super caps are actually not super cheap, or certainly weren't at the time. So why does this have a super cap in it? I think this was actually the demo model and that I sold it by accident. Because there are other ones that have lipos inside. If you buy one of these, you're not guaranteed to get a super cap. I think the super cap is so that it charges really quickly for the guys that are demoing it in the markets, right? That are holding it in their hand, because it doesn't run for that. It runs for a few minutes, right? At most. And so I think they were using a super cap so they could charge it in a minute or two and then go demo it again. And they had a couple running in rotation kind of thing. The plastic is super cheap and flimsy, but it's a two-sided injection mold, right? With coloring on it. So I don't, I suspect it's probably painted, right? And then look at how many screws there are. And I would imagine those are put in by hand. So that's the part that really doesn't make sense to me, is why so many screws? Why not sort of just melting it together or whatnot? And then you've got all of this, injection molded thing here. So it really is this sort of, it's amazing to me from a price point perspective, right? Like, it doesn't make sense to me how they can make this for exactly, for a couple dollars with so much sophistication. So anyway, yeah, wanted to show that off. Let's see if we got any quick questions here. Let's see. Yeah, so it's using the capacitor as a battery, the super cap as a battery instead of a battery. It probably has less runtime than a battery would. And it might be that I have killed the super cap by leaving it uncharged for years, but I'll have to play with it later and get it to run. I was hoping it would turn on. It does light up when I go to plug it in to charge it. So it does at least recognize the charger, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's bring Professor Tops up, or just Tops. He has something cool to show us here. Again. Hey there, Tops. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So this has nothing to do with any of the Pokemon stuff from last week.
Okay.
This is just more.
You set the bar very high last week.
Yeah, maybe another show and tell. We can go a little deeper into some of the dev consoles. Just some of them aren't working right now. So
yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay.
I also, before you get started, I would like to point out that last week we managed to completely gloss over the fact that you just like casually dropped what you're doing as a day job now, and then we just never revisited it. So I think you at least have to tell people what you're doing and give us at least a couple sentences more. It might be the case that you can't say a lot, but whatever you could say, I think we'd be interested in hearing.
Yeah, sure. That actually plays into what I was going to talk about anyways. So
okay, awesome.
I went to school for nuclear engineering. I graduated last year, so 2021, or sorry, okay. 2022. I was a manufacturing engineer as my internship. And then starting in September, I joined the Ontario Power Generation Nuclear Operator Team. So
amazing.
Yeah, so right now I'm an operator. I'm in training. The training is about a year and a half. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of refresher for the first 3 months, was a lot of stuff that I'd already done in my engineering degree. But after that, it's a lot of plant-specific stuff, which is a little bit more behind closed doors kind of thing. But yeah,
like very broadly, what kind of things are they teaching you, and what will your duties be as an operator?
Sure. Yeah. So we learn about proper like valving in and valving out of systems. We just learned how to rack in 4 kilovolt breakers and rack out breakers. So that was pretty interesting.
What does racking in and racking out mean?
So when a breaker needs to be serviced, it needs to be disconnected from the bus bars. And the way that is done is through a procedure where first the breaker is opened, and then there's a certain tool that you have to use to disconnect it from the bus bars.
Okay.
Go and put it into the test mode, test that the breaker still works and functions as expected, and if not, then it needs to be replaced. So
got it. Okay, got it. And you really want to make sure that your breakers are going to trip when you want them to trip.
Exactly. Yeah. Like these are really, really big breakers. And of course, safety is the number one key thing, especially with high voltage electricity and high current electricity. It's very important to make sure you know what you're doing. So we have a 3-week course on electricity, valving, and then instrumentation as well.
Amazing.
So that's what I'm doing currently. But my job a week from now will be inventory management of the spent fuel bundles in the irradiated fuel bays. So that's all the fuel that's been taken out of the reactor and is now in pools of water, just regular water. They're just sitting there for a decade before they're moved to dry storage.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so making sure that none of them go missing.
Exactly. So the Canadian government is very, they hover a lot, as well as the International Association for Spent Fuel, because of the treaty that Canada is in with a bunch of the other countries, including the States. Sure. Every single thing that comes out of the reactor has to be accounted for, especially if it can be used for creating weapons.
Yeah, for sure. Obsidian says the only exciting kind of inventory management.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. I worked at a warehouse before this, so it was not as exciting as as standing over a pool of water that if you fell in would irradiate you to a point that you wouldn't be recognized, right? So
that's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
What made you want to go into this field?
That's a good question. So I actually decided I wanted to be a nuclear engineer when I was 13, so grade 8. I was doing one of those career tests to see what you would be interested in. I got a lot of engineering, and I was like, yeah, that would be cool. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to do mechanical or electrical or mechatronics or what exactly I wanted to do. I scrolled down the list, and halfway, 3/4 of the way down the page, I saw nuclear engineering. I'm like, nuclear engineering? What the heck would a nuclear engineer do? So I dug into it. I did a lot of research on, what a nuclear engineer does. And then it kind of led to nuclear engineering. There's the only program in Canada that is accessible as an undergrad is actually at the school that's a half an hour away from my house. So I'm like, amazing. Oh, that's pretty wild. Okay.
So total serendipity.
Yeah. So I was able to stay at home, do my nuclear engineering degree, and it was kind of just locked in from grade 8 to all the way through high school. And that's what I wanted to do. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think you're the only person I know that picked what they wanted to do off of a list of careers or off of a test and then just stuck with it.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where a family friend of ours is like a contractor who works at one of the power plants in Ontario. And, I've talked to him when I was growing up about stuff that he does. And although I'm not going directly towards what he's doing, but it kind of let me in the door in a way where he was able to help me get my security clearance before anybody else.
Got it.
So it helped me get a job that way.
Yeah, because that's a major barrier and an absolute prerequisite, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I looked at getting a job in the States after university, but I got one here, and it's perfect.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for being willing to talk about it.
Yeah. So I'll show you guys what I've got. It's not as insane as what I had last week. This is just more something I did for fun.
Awesome.
But one of the things that I did was when I got my first internship, I got a 3D printer because it was one of those things that I always wanted. And so
you finally had some disposable income.
Exactly. If you aren't sure what this is Settlers of Catan, but it's a 3D version of it. So so this is just straight like gray 3D filament, so PLA filament that I found some files online. I did a bunch of modifications to them because I just wanted them to be unique and special to me. And then I just printed them out over the course of a year. Like it definitely it took me a while. It was one of those things where I got excited to do it. I bought the 3D printer. I didn't touch the 3D printer for like 2 months. And then it was one of those things where I really wanted to have this, but I didn't know how to start because I'd never done anything with a 3D printer before. So I ended up just started printing it, and then I got a little distracted, and then over 2 weeks I ended up printing the rest of this. And then the painting took forever. It took forever. But yeah, every piece is hand painted. I'd never done any painting or anything like this before.
It's awesome.
This one I just finished recently. It's a little token for having the largest army. But yeah, and then I was so one of the big reasons why I wanted to build this was being in university. Catan was like a big part of game nights for us.
Okay. Yeah. It's a staple of most game nights, I think.
It really is a staple. But I knew that once, we graduated from nuclear engineering, I was going to maybe lose contact with my friends a little bit. Yeah. And, one of the big things that we tried to do during COVID was, even though we couldn't see each other in person because everybody was all over the place during those years in school, we still played Catan online. So I finished this last year, but there were still a bunch of like little things that I hadn't finished. So what's really, really cool about these tiles is that they're magnetic. So I
was wondering,
they once you slot them in, they kind of grip and then grab on, and then now it moves as sort of more or less one piece. But I mean the tiles are pretty heavy, so it's not the perfect system. But yeah, it was one of those things that as my friends got their own jobs at either the same company or a different company or wherever, game night was still one of those things I wanted to do. So I wanted something super unique to our game night. So they love Catan and I love Catan. So recently I got a nice little treasure chest from Facebook Marketplace.
Dude!
So every piece, I sent some pictures in the Google form or whatever. Yeah, so all the pieces slot in to the foam, and then each layer kind of sits on top of each other. So there's foam board on the bottom of this. So they kind of just lie on the flat end of each piece.
Okay.
And they just stack all the way up. It just makes it to the top, but not over. And yeah, so that's kind of what I've got to show for.
That's amazing. How did you cut the foam? I mean, the foam looks so clean.
Yes, this is perfect foam material. Let's see if I can find a better piece. Sure, this is good enough. So it comes as like pre-cut foam.
Oh, okay. I've seen that before.
Yeah,
So it's
here.
like cut into cubes, right? Or like columns?
Yes. I got it off of AliExpress. It was so expensive. I was not expecting it at all, though.
Really?
Maybe
How much was it?
Just like 90 Canadian dollars for like 4 bricks of foam. Yeah. It was crazy. I was not expecting it, but I guess just the petroleum industry is kind of in a bit of a weird point right now where foam is really expensive, plastics are really expensive. But I mean,
noticed
honestly,
that with
plastics are a big one. But I was so
Yeah.
sick of carrying, this
Buying,
great thing that I built in a cardboard box. So
yeah.
I was like,
No, this
screw
is
it, I'm gonna build something cool to keep it in. But
Oh,
my
it's
friend
so
has
cool. Like the fact that it's
my
in a
friend has a
treasure
laser
chest is
engraver.
great.
He's a laser engraver, so I'm gonna get
Oh.
a nice plaque of Catan and then put it on the front too. It's not done yet. So
Yep. Oh, it looks so good though. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the first time I've ever done anything artistic. I'm not an artistic person at all. So it took me a really, really long time. I'm sure somebody who's better at painting miniatures would have done this a lot quicker, but yeah. No, so
I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, but it's been a part of our game night for the past year. We've played it probably close to 20, 25 times since then.
That's awesome.
But I take a picture every single time we play. At least one game that we play for each session that we play, just to keep track of the time that I spend with my friends and how many times I beat them as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So,
I approve.
That's what I've got.
What a great tradition to carry on. That it really is important. You do lose contact with friends after college. Like I definitely did. So.
You do. And it's one of those things that we have a group chat. We have a group chat called the Catan Bros. So we try to get together every week or every other week to at least do something together. Either it's play Catan or play a different board game or even just watch a movie.
That's awesome. Yeah, hang on to that. It gets progressively harder to make friends, particularly for guys. I think as you get older, like it is progressively harder once you leave college. So it's worth hanging on.
It's hard. It's hard to keep track with people, especially once they start having their own lives. Like 2 of my friends are engaged. So they have fiancés to deal with, but every week we try to at least get together once.
That's awesome.
So that's what I've got. It has nothing to do with anything I talked about last week. It was just something that I did that I thought was really cool and fun.
I love it. Yeah, thank you for sharing with us. This is
thank you.
Yeah, I've seen people 3D printing them. I have seen nobody go to the level that you have of like redesigning pieces and beautiful, carrying box and everything. So that's quite cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I recommend it if anybody has a 3D printer. 3D print, maybe not Catan, but whatever your favorite board game is, try to make a 3D version of it because it's so much more fun playing with it. Especially when it's something that you made, even if it's Risk or Monopoly. Like I definitely want to try doing this more. My 3D printer broke, so I was trying to print Seafarers, which is one of the expansions, but the 3D printer broke and it's kind of done. I know
someone you could talk to for advice.
Yeah, the hotbed is dead. And honestly, I tried looking for replacement parts and I couldn't find any.
What kind of printer is it?
It was an Anycubic Mega i3 something, I think. I honestly, I can't remember. It's in parts behind me. I tried taking it apart. I have no idea what I was doing. So it was more just guesswork.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for showing it off, and thanks for coming on 2 weeks in a row here. I look forward to what you're going to show off next week.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'll talk to my brother, and maybe we'll try and get the Wii dev console up and running.
That'd be awesome.
I didn't have a lot of time.
No pressure. That was literally a joke, but I would love to see whatever you want to show off. No, you're absolutely welcome next week. If you can get it running, great. If not, we'll do it on a future week. So,
Perfect.
but I would love
All
to
right.
have you back. Yeah,
Sounds
awesome.
good.
See you,
Thank
Tops.
you. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye. That is awesome. I love stuff like that. I love sort of passion projects and diving into things that, I'm not necessarily an expert in yet, but it's certainly how I learn, and it's how a lot of the best hackers and programmers and engineers I know learn, is they get excited about something and they dive in. They say, I always wanted to learn 3D printing and painting, or I always wanted to learn to weld, or I always wanted to learn to design a circuit board, or whatever it is, right? And just dive in and get your feet wet and get in a little over your head and figure it out as you go along. So anyone who might be listening who's like, oh, I really wish I could make stuff like Scotty, or make stuff like Tops, or make stuff like Sophie. Really, the important thing to know is that, Tops went to school for nuclear engineering, but not for 3D printing and painting. I went to school for computer science, but not for electronics and manufacturing and modifying iPhones. We have all learned to do these things by just jumping in and trying it. Not being afraid to put ourselves in a position where we might fail, or at least struggle, and have, successive failures, right? Failures are just, steps along the journey. They're never the end destination. So Toaster Biscuit says, you thought you were not an artistic person. It's everybody's got aptitude for this stuff. You'd be surprised. You need to just kind of jump in and be willing to suck for a little while, before you're willing to before you got to be bad at it before you get good at it. You're never good right off the bat, or very rarely. Rambling Geek says failing isn't negative, it's how we learn. Yeah, it really is, and particularly for things like this, for making stuff and engineering and that kind of thing. So looks like we got some pinned messages. Obsidian was asking if the STLs are available online, and it looks like Sophie might have found them. So you can scroll back up if you missed that. We had a question earlier that I skipped over. RandomX user says, I think this is the stream I've been looking for. Do you have any recommendations for SBCs? I think that's single board computers. Whatever you can get right now. Raspberry Pis, right? Like, it depends on what you want it for. Raspberry Pis, but those are like unobtainium right now. The friend I had visiting this morning was like, oh man, I really want a Raspberry Pi 4, but I can't find one anywhere. And what I didn't mention is that I have a couple sitting on the shelf over there, but then I'm saving them because I can't get any either. And I've had them for a while. Whatever you can get. I have an up board that I bought for a project, which is basically a drop-in replacement for an Arduino, or for a Raspberry Pi. I suspect that it is also hard to get right now. I bought it, a couple of years ago. So for a project that still hasn't been finished yet, maybe someday. Obsidian says, if you find a single board computer, take it and run. Yeah, that is fairly accurate. And it seems like Tops says there are his STLs in a Google Drive folder. So maybe you can share that on Discord, either publicly or privately, Tops, depending on what you're up for. I'm not going to force you into making it public, but for the Settlers of Catan game. Oops. Having a hard time clicking on the right message because it keeps scrolling. I think this is very accurate. The only people who don't make errors and don't fail are the ones who don't do anything. That absolutely matches my philosophy. If you're gonna go out and do interesting things, you're gonna fail, and it's okay. I break stuff all the time. I fail. I'm working on a fairly expensive iPhone right now that I am doing some micro soldering work too, and I lost 2 of the 01005s that I was soldering yesterday. I'm just hoping they're not mission critical. I'm hoping they're little filtering caps or something. We'll see. It still boots, but that was a terrible moment, and you know, at the end of the day, yeah, it's a lot of money. I might have to go buy another phone. But it's all part of the journey, you know? And yeah, money's an issue. I get it. I have access to a bit more funds of things to break, but it doesn't negate the overall thing, which is like, yeah, failure's part of the game. What else do we have here? We're going to kind of wind down here, but I'm going to answer a few more questions. Sucking at something is the first step towards being sort of good at something. Jake the dog. Yes, from Adventure Time. Yep. Well said. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This is the second one we've ever done. It was just as amazing as the first one. So I have high expectations for where we go from here. If you'd like to present next week, go ahead and go to strangeparts.com/show-and-tell. And there's a little form to fill out there, just letting us know what you want to show off and adding you to the queue here. So we'll get you up. You know, obviously come hang out with us on Discord, discord.gg/strangeparts. We'd love to have you. The conversation is going to continue on there. I can already see it continuing in the chat. I hang out there. I'm there pretty much every day. I'm not on there all day long every day because I have to shoot and have other things going on, but I'm always checking in. You're welcome to tag me in there. Not a big deal. Happy to jump in on conversations or answer questions as I have time. And then lastly, if you'd like to support Strange Parts, the best way to do it is to go to patreon.com/strangeparts and sign up as a patron. The tiers start at $5 a month. The higher tiers, you can get a t-shirt or a hoodie. It's the only way to get Strange Parts clothing merch right now. It's the first time I've ever done t-shirts or hoodies. I've finally done it. So if you sign up for the $15 tier, you can get a t-shirt. If you sign up for the $30 tier, you get a sweatshirt, get a nice hoodie. But the most important thing is that money is going towards other people's salaries, not mine, to allow me to do more videos, more projects, be more ambitious more often. I'm hiring an international production and travel coordinator to work with me on factory tours, and a local camera operator and editor for working with me here in the studio, so that we can just get more things, more videos out. I know you all want to see more videos. Man, do I want to show you. And the reality is I'm just spending too much time doing things that are not engineering and making videos. So that's the big focus right now. So yeah, I would love if you're able to come support there. It's a better place to support me than say like Twitch subscriptions or bits or anything like that. Twitch takes 50% of the money that you contribute through Twitch, which, you know, it just doesn't feel fair to you. Like, I don't think you really want your money to be going to support Twitch. If you do, fine. But, you know, on Patreon's a lot more efficient in that money goes towards making Strange Parts better. So that's my quick pitch. I also have some behind the scenes stuff up on nebula.com/strangeparts. If you'd like to see that, there is an hour-long tour of the shop. It is $4 a month to sign up, or $40 a year. That money goes to support not only me, but all of the other wonderful creators that I call friends and colleagues on Nebula. We are all co-owners of Nebula. It's created and run, and it's a wonderful community. There's a bunch of awesome content there. So you can go check that out. Everyone from like Wendover Productions to Johnny Harris to Polymatter, real life lore, real engineering, practical engineering. There's really an amazing set of creators on there. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. If you sign up by going to my channel page first, if you go to nebula.com/strangeparts, I get a third of that money. And that, again, just goes into paying people to help me run Strange Parts and do amazing things. Yeah, I'm very excited for the year to come here. I've got a ton of amazing projects in the works, and I can't wait to share more with you guys. It's going to be really awesome. So a bunch of things I can't talk about yet, but I'm dying to. I can't wait till I can talk about some of the stuff I'm working on. I've got some iPhone projects coming up. Those are small in comparison to what we've got planned. So stay tuned. Yeah. I think that about does it for this time. Thank you all for joining. This has been marvelous. I can't wait to do the next one. These are so much fun. We've seen so many great projects. Thank you to Sophie and Tops and Doug for showing stuff off. I hope we've got lots more cool stuff to show you in the future. I'm pretty confident. There are so many amazing people in this community. So we'll see you on Discord until then. And I'll see you again next week at the Strange Parts Weekly Show and Tell. Shout out again to the mods, Scaverat, Marlis, and Obsidian. Thank you guys again for moderating and making this run so smoothly. Have a great weekend, y'all. I'll see you again soon.